Hey gamers, welcome to episode 1 of our road to completion for Dark Souls. The first thing I wanted to point out to you guys is just to make sure that you're playing the game in offline mode. It's just going to make it a heck of a lot easier to be able to get all your trophies that way. You won't have to worry about other players invading your game and that sort of thing. One thing I do is I just unplug my Ethernet cable from the back of my PS3. This way I don't accidentally log on and play the multiplayer aspect of this game. It'll just make things a whole lot easier, especially for the guide. So I just start the game in offline mode, press OK, and then we'll go ahead and press start and hit up a new game. Now one thing I want to point out here is to make sure that the brightness setting right here is turned all the way up to 10. It's just going to make it a whole lot easier to see those dark areas in the game, and I find that if you have it around 5 or 6, which will obviously make the game probably look a whole lot better, you're going to find that you're going to be getting killed a lot by enemies that you can't see until they get right up on top of you. So just turn that up to 10 and that should make it a whole lot easier for you guys. Just press OK. And then one thing I like to do here, it's more of a personal preference, at least for the most part of the game, is to turn my camera auto wall recovery off. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to have full control of my camera. There's one specific spot in this game that I can think of right now where if you have your camera auto wall recovery on, you could actually die pretty easily. Not anything that you would do. It's not by anything that you would do. It's just the fact that the cameras in this game, you know, they're objects in the game. And what'll happen is if you have this on, then when you're running up this particular little area, the camera will actually hit one of the one of the columns, I guess, and it can actually throw you off a ledge. So I've just gotten so used to playing the game with it off that that's what I prefer. I just want to have full control of my own camera. So I'll let you guys make that decision, but my suggestion for you is to be able to turn that off. I'm going to make some adjustments here, and then we'll get this thing going. So hit OK. Alright, so now we get to make our character. I'm going to let you guys make the character that you want to make. I'm going to go with the recommendation that was left by you guys. Remember, I did that video a couple days ago, and I was talking about, hey, you know, you guys can name the character that you want me to run with. And Dormouse03 actually got the most comments, the most replies, and she also got the most upvotes. So she won, and her suggestion was Soggy Bottom. I loved it because it's got the SOG, the S-O-G. I really like that play on words there. And but HMF450R1 actually chimed in and said, hey, why don't we add an S to Soggy Bottom? Because he did say that he liked the name. He just said, hey, let's add an S to it and call our character Soggy Bottoms. And I thought that was pretty epic. So we're going to go with the hybrid between those two right there. So we're going to call her Soggy Bottoms, and it will be a female. I felt like it was more of a 50-50 split, guys, on whether you wanted a male or a female. So we're going to go ahead and own some dragons and kill some demons with a female. And that female's name is going to be Soggy Bottoms. So I'm going to go ahead and create my character right quick. You guys create yours, and I'll meet back up with you when we're through. Alright guys, so there she is, Miss Soggy Bottoms. She's about to do some work in this game. Let's go ahead and talk about our classes, our gifts, and our physique. For the class, I want you guys to pick Sorcerer and Gift. Go ahead and pick the Master Key, very important. And then your physique is really just up to you guys. I'm going to go ahead and pick Slim, but you can pick whatever you like, and then we'll go ahead and press Accept and get this thing started.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog. A land of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire, and with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. the first of the dead. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters of Chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty bolts peeled apart their stone skins. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And Seath the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers. And man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark side. Yes, indeed. The dark sign brands the undead. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
Alright, so welcome to the Northern Undead Asylum. A couple of things before we get started here. This is more of a training area, more of a tutorial area, so this is probably going to be a lot of me explaining things and that sort of stuff. I just want to make sure that you guys, especially if you're a beginner player, you kind of know what all the overlays are and what the menus do. Obviously, as we get into future episodes, there'll be less explaining because you guys will be getting used to the game, but that's kind of what this first area is about, so I'm going to utilize that in this episode. But just keep in mind that I will be playing the game, like I said, after this episode, you know, at a pretty brisk pace. You know, I'll still be very informative for those of you who are needing this to actually get your trophies, but I'm also going to be playing at a fast pace in case there are some of you guys out there who just want to watch the playthrough. So it's going to be kind of a hybrid between those of you who are, you know, watching for trophies and those of you who just want to see the game played through. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for with this guide. I'm also going to be playing as if I am a beginner. So I'm going to be killing a lot more enemies than I normally would. I'm going to be not really employing a lot of advanced strategies in the game, like backstabs and rolls and that sort of stuff. I'm going to just try to play as if I'm a beginner so I can mimic some of you guys' play styles if you are a beginner. And that way, you'll feel a little bit more confident about your run. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and grab this. This is our dungeon cell key. This is going to allow us to exit our prison here. And then right now I'm just hitting O. And this is allowing me to sprint. You can see that in the top left-hand side of the screen, the green bar is going down. That's my stamina gauge. And obviously that pretty much controls everything in the game, from rolling to running to taking shots from enemies to blocking things with your shield. It does everything. So, and you'll learn this as you play through the game, that stamina management is probably one of the most crucial things you can do in this game. Let's just go ahead and practice a couple of things right quick. So obviously this is your run. I'm just hitting O to sprint, just like that. You can also, if you stand still, you can press O and you'll do a little back step. So if an enemy's trying to hit you and you just want to get away, super quick, boom, right? And you can get outside of the range of their attack. You can also, if you're pressing left on your thumbstick in any direction and you hit O, you'll do a roll. You see what I mean? This is a great way to dodge enemies and very useful. Now this is more, well, I'm not going to say this is an advanced strategy because it's really not, but I'm going to actually try to go through the game as much as possible without using the roll. Now it's more of an instinct for me because I've been playing the game for a while, but I will try to tone it down, just so that you can get used to it if you're a beginner, right? Because you may not be able to roll out of some of the situations that I'm getting into. So I just want you to see. I just want to give you a good example of how you should be playing the game, even if you're not, comfortable with rolling. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for there. And then one more thing we can practice right quick is when you run, if you double tap O super quick, sometimes you will jump, depending on how fast you tap it. Sometimes you'll roll by accident. You have to really tap it quick. And even I don't get it every single time. Okay, it's just a weird technique to do. There's only going to be a couple of spots that we're actually going to use the jump, but I do want you to go ahead and get kind of used to that right now. So just hold down your O button and then just quickly double tap. And if you don't end up rolling, you'll end up jumping, which is exactly what you need. All right, and then let's go ahead and rest at the bonfire and pick up our first trophy. It's called Enkindle, and this is obviously just for lighting the first bonfire. And then you want to go ahead and rest as well. And we're going to let that trophy pop in. Now you can see on your left-hand side of the screen we have some options here. Now you get these options when you rest at a bonfire. Right now we don't have a lot of options, but later on in the game as we advance the story some, we're going to be given a lot more options than this. And we'll get into all that as we get to it in the game. Let's also look in the top left-hand side of the screen above our stamina bar, the green bar. We have a red bar. Obviously that is your health. The game calls it vitality. To the left of that is a 00. That's actually your humanity. We're going to get into that later on in the game too as it becomes relevant. In the bottom left hand side of your screen, it's kind of like your D-pad. See what I mean? Like if you look at the bottom left hand side of the screen, it mimics your D-pad. So left, down, right, and up. The top slot actually controls your magic. Now we are a sorcerer character, so we're going to be pushing up on this D-pad quite frequently, okay, in order to be able to select our spells and such. So that you're going to really be using that a lot. We're not really going to be using our right hand slot that much unless it's for, switching between a catalyst and a pyromancy flame. We'll talk about that a little bit later on too. That's pretty much how you're able to cast magic in the game. We're not really going to be using a lot of weapons. Mainly just things that allow us to use magic. I'll get into what happens with the left and the bottom a little bit later on, but for now let's go ahead and head up this way. Open up these double doors. Also in the bottom right hand side of the screen is a 0. That is our souls. That's the amount of souls we have. You'll sometimes hear me call that our bank. That's just what I like to call it. So right now we have a bank of 0. And then if you look up right there, you can barely see the bottom half of a boss. He's going to drop down as we enter this room. We just want to go ahead and head left right here. We don't want to fight him quite yet because we're not quite ready to take him on. And you don't have to light this bonfire, just skip it. And then again, just press O. We want to come right through here and make sure that we pick up this item. This is a small leather shield. And let's talk about that for a second. So if you hit start, you're going to be given a sub menu right here. And you can go R1, L1 to scroll across your 4 options. The first option is just basic inventory in the game, right? Like you have all these different things you can have in the game. The first one is like your consumables, you know, things that you can use maybe once, and you know, you can inventory those out. So maybe you have 5 of something, you can use it 5 times. That's kind of what that first slot is. The second slot is your Titanite. We'll be getting into that a little bit later on. Then you have your keys. Then you have your spells or your magic. The game refers to them as miracles, magic, pyromancy. You're probably just going to hear me refer to everything as magic just to keep it simple, but this is where all that would be. Then you have your weapons. Obviously, there's the shield we just got. You have your arrows, which we're not really going to use during this run, so don't worry about that. And then this is everything that you have equipped. So you can see that, or this is the gear that you have equipped, like your armor, I should say. And you see that like right beside the Sorcerer hat, there's the icon for the hat, and then in the top left, there's that red insignia. That means that I'm actually wearing it at this particular time. So anytime you see that little red insignia there, you actually have it on your character at that particular time. And then the rings, we don't have any of those yet, but those are going to come in handy for stat buffs, ways to improve our character and stuff like that. So that just gives you an idea about our general inventory. Obviously, I'll go in depth about this as we continue the run. If you hit R1 one time, this is actually what your character has on them at this particular time. So like we said before, you know, we have all of our gear on here. This is the slot for your rings. This is the slot for all your arrows. We're not really going to be using any of those, so don't worry about the middle slot. And then this top slot is where all your consumables go. You know, like your Estus Flask, which we'll get into that later on. Mainly like your potions. Maybe you get poisoned in the game. There are items that can heal you from poison, so maybe you want to put that in one of these slots. And that's kind of where that would go. And then over here you have your weapons. Basically, your right hand can hold 2 weapons. Obviously not at the same time, but you can switch between 2 weapons by using your right D-pad. And then right here you have your shields. You have 2 empty slots for those too. Now we need to basically equip our shield. Let's go ahead and pick one of the empty slots, hit X, and then let's put on our shield by hitting X. And now we have that equipped. Now before we go out to the game again, let's go ahead and hit R1 again, and this is kind of like your character in a nutshell right here. This is everything you're ever going to want to know about your character, and I know it may be a lot of information right there, but as we play through the game, I'll be pointing out each individual thing to you. I just wanted to show you that that's where it is. And then one more thing to point out is if you go to quit the game, make sure that you actually quit the game via this menu right here by selecting quit game. If you just quit game using your dashboard or you just turn your system off, it could corrupt your data and you might lose your saved information, which is not good. You can also change your options and brightness again if you want to do that. And that's pretty much the sub menu up at the top, and that pretty much takes care of the main menu as well. So let's go ahead and hit O. And now you can see in our left D-pad slot we have a shield, and you know, we can keep switching between shields or not having a shield depending on how you want to play. We obviously want the shield, and if you hit L1 you will actually hold your shield up. So if you come out here, this guy's gonna be shooting arrows at us, and then bam, you can just block those. You see what I mean? Now you can see in the top left hand side of the screen that when I block them, my stamina gauge goes down a little bit. So that's what I was telling you earlier. It's all about budgeting your stamina. So you may feel like you're invincible in the game because you have like a really good shield, but if an enemy hits you enough, he will actually take off all of your stamina, which will leave you staggered and open to enemy attacks, and you can die super quick. So it's all about making sure that you budget that correctly. So let's go on up here. This guy's gonna run away in a second, hopefully. I'll have to hit him, I guess. Now you can see right there that I only took off 2 damage, right? And that's because I have a basically like a broken sword. It's a garbage sword. So if we come up here and we pick up this dagger, then now we can actually equip that. Let me come around this corner and equip it. Hit start, just like we did last time. Hit X, put on the dagger, and now you can actually come out here and take this dude out. You'll see that it takes off a lot more energy. So just come up here and just keep hitting R1, and bam, he's dead, right? So your R1 is actually how you attack in the game. You can see that it takes off stamina as well. And then if you want to do like a pretty big attack, a more heavy attack, you would hit R2, and that gives you a bigger attack. It takes off more stamina, but your damage output is a little bit better. So that's kind of how that works. Let's run through this way, take a left, come up here, let's head through the fog gate. We'll do some more work. We're about to get another trophy right quick. Okay, Okay, we'll come through here. And this is a prime example of why I wanted you guys to turn the brightness up on your game there to 10. If you have it on 5 or 6 right now, you may not even be able to see that there is a boulder up there, and it's going to roll down the staircase as we go up the staircase. And obviously now with my brightness up, I can see it. So it's really going to help you out, like I said, to have it up to 10. Now just make sure that you run up the stairs here and run off the side, and that's going to cause the ball to roll down the stairs. And then open this up right here. That's going to come in handy way later on in the run. And let's head back up this way, and let's talk to this guy right here.
Oh, you. You're no hollow. Hmm? Thank goodness. I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose my sanity. I wish to ask something of you. You and I were both undead. Hear me out, will you?
Okay, just make sure you say yes.
Regrettably, I have failed in my mission, but perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family, thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know. Well, now you know, and I can die with hope in my heart. Oh, one more thing. Here, take this. An Estus Flask, an undead favorite.
Alright, and that's going to give us our trophy called Estus Flask. And an Estus Flask, just think of it like a potion, right? All games have, well, most games have potions. Most adventure games have potions. That's pretty much what it is. It's just a fancy word, Estus Flask. You can see at the bottom now in my bottom D-pad slot, I have the Estus Flask, and it's got the number 5, and that just means that I obviously have 5 Estus Flask. I can use them 5 times, and it just gives me back my energy. Let's go and press OK.
Oh, and this.
And this is the Asylum key. We're going to use this in just a second. Press OK.
Now I must bid farewell. I would hate to harm you after death. So go now, and thank you.
Alright, and then once we head this way, he's actually going to die. I'm going to let these souls kick in right quick. You can see now we have 20 souls. That's because we killed the little enemy earlier. He's going to die and give us 100 more souls. So that's kind of how souls are added to your bank. Now do keep in mind that this game has a pretty weird mechanic, because enemies can die off screen. Sometimes you won't even do anything for them to die. Like I've just been running around in the area before and just get souls magically. I didn't want you to think that was a glitch in the game. It's just the way that this game is. You know, they can be chasing you maybe from one area to the next. An enemy might be chasing you and they might fall off a ledge or something like that, and you'll just magically get souls. So, you know, just take the bad with the good and enjoy it. It's always good to get souls in this game. So let's head up here and focus on our targeting. So if you hit down on your right thumbstick or R3, you can actually target enemies. And just like all third-person games, you're able to, you know, walk around the enemy while keeping them targeted. This is really good if you're fighting multiple enemies and you want to target one versus the other, and that sort of thing. It's also good for casting magic, which is what we're going to be doing a lot in this game, because you're able to target them a whole lot easier versus just using, you know, the camera angle trying to aim. And then what we want to do is just come up here, shield up, let him attack us first, and then just hit R1 until he's dead. And that's a basic combat tactic in the game. I call it the counter kill. That's when you take a hit with the shield and then, you know, continue to hit them with whatever you have, whether it be a weapon or magic. It's a great way to kill them. We're going to do a fight tutorial at the end of this episode, and I'll be going over some combat tactics, but that's actually one of them. Let's go ahead and open up this door using the key we just got and head through this way. We're going to go ahead and pick this up right here. Very important. This is your Sorcerer's Catalyst. This is what's going to allow you to use your spells or your magic. So if you hit start, R1, X, we can go ahead and put this on, the Sorcerer's Catalyst right here, hit X. And now you can see that we have the dagger. Notice that the stamina gauge is going down. But you can also hit R1, or not, sorry, right on your D-pad, and now you have your Catalyst. So just by hitting right on your D-pad, you can go between, you know, having a weapon to a Sorcerer's Catalyst, or maybe a Catalyst to a Pyromancy Flame. You know, different ways you can use your magic, right? Now, if you notice, when we actually use our magic, our stamina gauge doesn't go down. So if you hit R1, Notice that when you use magic, you don't expend any of your stamina, which is really good because it's going to help you guys get through this game a little bit easier, in my opinion, because you're not going to have to worry about stamina management as much as somebody who's trying to go in there with like a strength build and do all melee attacks, right? Because they're always going to be expending their stamina where you aren't. So that's kind of a strategy we're going to use. Let's head over here. Go ahead and target these enemies, draw them out. You can see if you hit R1 now, you can use your soul arrows to take these dudes out. So when you're on your weapon, you can see the soul arrow, like if you push up on the D-pad, it's darkened out. But when you have your catalyst on, it brightens up, and that lets you know that you can actually use the soul arrows. So we'll turn this corner, shield up. Just kind of wait for this dude to attack, and then we'll take him out. Like that. And so that's how you do that. Now let's go ahead and Estus Flask, just so you guys get used to that. Just hit square. So anything that's in that bottom D-pad slot down there, as long as you hit square, you'll use it. And you can use it as many times as that number tells you can. Like right now we have 4 Estus Flask left, so that's how many more Estus Flask that we can do. So it's time to fight the Asylum Demon. Now the way that we're going to do this is we're going to switch to our weapon, our dagger. When we go through this fog gate, there's going to be, we're going to be on like a ledge. We're going to run off the ledge or walk off the ledge, and while we're falling, we're going to hit R1. That's going to allow our dagger to kind of like plunge into his head. It's going to roughly take off about 25% of his energy. As soon as we land, we're going to switch to our catalyst. And there's 2 ways this can go down, and it's a bit random. One way is that you stand directly behind the enemy in the center of his back. And he will never be able to hit you from there as long as he's swinging the big axe, okay? He'll never be able to hit you. You'll be invincible. The only way that you ever want to leave that area is if he like flies up in the air. If you see him flying up in the air, you want to basically roll twice in the direction away from him and then just start hitting him with soul arrows from a distance. See what I mean? So I don't know what his... That's the thing about this game, guys, with the bosses. They are random. And I can predict quite a bit of what the boss is going to do, but not 100% of the time. I can give you some fallback strategies, but you know, as you play the game, you'll learn how to adapt. And so I'll be doing these previews with you as much as possible to give you an idea of what's going to happen. And that way you have a little bit more information before going into it, because once I go into these battles, it's just too hard for me to process everything that's happening to be able to do live commentary then about what's actually going on. Maybe not for this boss right here, but for some of them in the game. So just keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and switch to our dagger. Head through the fog gate. Gonna walk off the ledge, hit R1. As soon as we hit the ground, right on our D-pad, let's try to get behind him. Let's see how he swung right there and he missed, because I'm right behind him. So you're pretty much invincible right here as long as you stay in this area. And then all you have to do is just keep hitting him with magic. So wait for him to swing, hit him with magic, stay in his center. He's probably gonna float here in a second. Wait for him to swing, hit him with magic. Wait for him to swing, hit him with magic. You just keep this up all day long. See what I mean? Now he's floating right now. See how I'm rolling away right now? And then you just turn around and you pop him. So it just depends on what he does with you, determines what you need to do. As long as he's fighting you on the ground, you stay directly behind him. Just make sure that you wait for him to swing first, and then you cast. If you try to cast and he swings at the same time, it is possible for him to get a cheap shot on you. You won't die, but it'll knock you away, and then you have to kind of reset. So just wait for him to swing first, then attack. If he floats like that, roll in any direction 2 to 3 times, and then just turn around and get you some shots in. And then you can choose at that point whether you want to fight him at a distance or just run directly behind him again, right, and get set up again. So it just really depends on how you want to play that out. But fairly easy boss once you kind of know some strategy there. Let's head through this way. Now that we got that big pilgrim's key, we can exit this area. We're going to come up here and take a left, because there's items in these games called soul packs, or I call them soul packs. I'm not sure if the game calls them soul packs, But well, they actually call them like Soul of the Lost Undead and Soul of a Brave Warrior. I'm just going to call them all soul packs. These are just free souls that are laying on dead corpses that you can pick up, which means you don't have to kill an enemy for them. They're just free. And we can use them at any time because they are part of our bottom D-pad area down here. So you can basically just consume them at any point in time and use them to level up. So we'll get into that in just a second. Let's go ahead and initiate this cutscene, and I'll meet you guys on the other side.
Only in the ancient legends it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. To leave the undead asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords, Lordran.
Alright, so this is Lordran, and this is an area called Firelink Shrine. We're going to wait for this trophy to queue in right quick. It's called Reach Lordran. We got that from obviously just going through the Northern Undead Asylum. Alright, there's that trophy. Let's get and head this way. We're going to get another trophy right quick. It's called Covenant Way of the White. We're going to come over here and talk to Petrus. Just walk up to him and hit X.
Hello there. I believe we are not acquainted. I am Petrus of Thoroland. Have you business with us? If not, I'd prefer to keep a distance, if possible.
Alright, just talk to him one more time.
Hello there. I realize that I have requested that we retain our distance, but I also want you to know that it is not meant in ill will. Here, take this, as a token of peace. No, go ahead. It's for you.
Alright, just accept the copper coin. Then talk to him again.
Oh my, you again. Oh, I know. How about this? I have to await my companions here anyway. So what if I were to teach you some miracles? Would that please you?
Alright, select yes.
Very well. Then first, a covenant with the gods.
Now, this is actually going to be a trophy, like I said, called Covenant Way of the White. You don't actually have to join the Covenant to get the trophy. You're going to see that it's going to pop in just a second, right there. We didn't actually join the Covenant. Now, joining Covenants is more of an online thing. However, there are going to be Covenants in the game that we do want to join because certain Covenants will give you certain spells, and those are going to be helpful for getting trophies in the game. Because the one thing we have to do is we have to collect all the miracles in the game, all the pyromancies in the game, and all the sorceries in the game to be able to get 3 trophies. So joining certain covenants is going to give us access to those. But I'll let you know that as we continue. But for now, let's just go ahead and select no.
That is a shame. But each to their own. Speak to me if you have a change of heart.
Alright, so let's head up this way. What we're going to do for the rest of this episode is just get our character leveled up as much as possible by picking up more of these soul packs, like right there, the Soul of the Lost Undead. We're going to level up as much as possible and do some other things that's going to give you guys a little bit of a confidence boost going into the next episode, and then we'll end this episode off with the fight tutorial. Let's go ahead and open up this treasure chest. Now, Homeward Bones, we're getting 6 of those right here. Let me go ahead and tell you what they do. They allow you to warp back to the previous bonfire that you rested at. Okay, so let's say that you have to go out of your way to get a weapon, or you want to just go, exploring or something like that, and it becomes too treacherous, then you can just pop one of these and you'll go back to the previous bonfire that you rested at. Really important for this game, especially for our run, because we're going to be using a lot of these. And there's also merchants that you can meet up with later on where you can buy these. And typically every boss fight that you come in contact with will drop a Homeward Bone, so they're going to be fairly plentiful, and we're going to be using them a lot. So it's good that we're able to get 6 of them now. Let's go ahead and open up this treasure chest. Going to be getting the Morning Star and the Talisman. Not too concerned about the Morning Star, but the Talisman is going to come in handy a bit later on. That allows us to use miracles in the game, and we're going to use that later on in the run. So let's go ahead and head this way. Now this is more of an online item. It's the cracked Red Eye Orb. We're going to be getting 4 of those. Now obviously we're not playing online, but I do have a strategy in mind for you guys to be able to get a purging stone with those. There's basically an area in the game later on where you can take the cracked Red Eye Orbs and trade them in for purging stones, and that's going to be helpful for the run. Let's go ahead and open up this treasure chest and pick up the Lloyd's Talisman. We're going to be getting 4 of those. Those are going to be coming in handy as well. Now, let's head down this way into the graveyard. Now, the one thing you want to keep in mind with the graveyard is that the skeletons come out of the ground, and you can kill them. I mean, it's possible, but there's really no need to, not at this stage in the game. They can just be more aggravating than anything. So we're going to go ahead and dive off here, and you just want to keep running. And while you're running, you want to stop here, press X, pick that up, then continue to run. Obviously, you don't want to run back because they are spawned in at this point. You can skip that soul. You're just making a big circle here. You can skip this soul on the left, just keep going, get your stamina built up, and then just kind of run past these enemies. Sometimes they'll get a lucky shot in on you. It just depends on the randomness of the AI, but it shouldn't be enough to kill you. And then just come up here. You're going to do a little U-turn. Just stay near this wall. And then come over here. There's going to be another soul pack right up here. Make sure you pick that up. Now what I like to do is go back to the bonfire. You guys know we talked about this earlier about the bonfires allowing you to reset the enemies in the area. We want to reset those enemies because if we don't, they're going to be down there when we go back, right? And we don't want that. Let's pick up this humanity right quick. We're going to be getting 3 humanity, and I'll be cluing you guys in on the importance of those in the next episode. Let's go ahead and head through this way. We're going to pick up these fire bombs. Now, I normally do not use these fire bombs in my run, but there is one spot where I may use them. So let's go ahead and pick them up, 6 of those. Now we're going to head back to the graveyard one more time, and all those enemies are going to be reset, which is good. We're going to get a couple more soul packs, then we're going to level up a bit. Now I'll explain all that to you in just a second. Let's take a left. Come around here, be careful not to fall off the ledge. Pick up the soul. Okay. Come through this way, obviously back to the graveyard. And now what we want to do is just fall off this ledge and get this soul right here. And then just roll through pretty quick. Just get away from those enemies. And then again, we run away. We run away, live to fight another day. Alright, we'll head back to the bonfire. And that way, we can reset the enemies one more time. Okay, rest right here. Now let's go ahead and level up a bit. So if we press start and we hit R1, X, these are all of our consumables right now. We have humanity, souls, homeward bones, and the cracked red eye orbs. If you hit O, hit O again, you can see those are all in that bottom D-pad slot. Now some of them are not lit up, and that just means you can't use them. So like the cracked red eye orb, not lit up, that means you can't use it. Anything lit up means that you can. So let's go ahead and go back into our menu. Let's get rid of these. Now we're not actually dropping these, we're just getting them off of our character. So just hit square, get rid of that. You can get rid of the humanity. And let's hit X on one of the empty slots, and let's actually add in these other souls. You see how these 4 soul packs are actually on our character because the insignia is there, but this one doesn't have the insignia. So let's go ahead and hit X and add it in. You should have 4 and 2. And then we're going to go and consume those souls by pressing down on our D-pad and then just hitting square. And you're going to see it's going to just add to our soul count, add to our bank in the bottom right. And it should give us enough levels here to get up to level 8. Just keep popping those. And we're going to be collecting these guys throughout the run. I mean, there's some souls you could pick up off corpses that are worth like 10,000 souls. It's absolutely ridiculous. So we're going to be utilizing those a lot in this run, just free souls. Now if you hit X, you can see now that like the last time we rested at the bonfire, it was only leave and attune magic. Now we have level up, attune magic, kindle, and reverse hollowing. So a lot more options. I'm not going to talk about kindling and reverse hollowing now. That'll come in handy a little bit later on in the run. But let's do talk about leveling up and attuning our magic. So when you hit X, This is your soul level right here. Right now, Soggy Bottoms is a 3. We got our total souls is 3850. Required souls for the next level is 707. You can see here we have all the different aspects of our character that we can level up. Got Vitality, which is your health. That's an 8. Attunement, which is kind of how many magic slots you can have. Now, because we're a sorcerer, we want as many magic slots as we can get our hands on, right? So we can have more spells to carry around. You can see over there in the right, we have Poise, Bleed Resist, Poison Resist, Curse, Item Discovery, Attunement slots. The more we level up this stat, the higher that goes. Right now, we can hold up to 3 spells. So I have 1 spell equipped, which is Soul Arrow. I have 2 that are empty. My maximum attunement slots are 3. But if I were to level this up to, let's say, 20 or 19, you can see it goes from 3 to 5 slots. Then I can hold 5 different kinds of magic. Does that make sense? So that's kind of what that does. And when you also level that up, you can see that our physical defense, versus strike, magic defense, all that stuff goes up too. So anytime you see that blue color there, that means that you're increasing something, right? If it's red, that means it's downgrading, okay? Now let's go ahead and talk about our endurance. That's obviously going to be affecting your stamina. So right now we have our green bar. You know, when we're running through the game, that overlay, our green bar, is so long. As you increase your endurance, it gets longer and longer and longer. It affects basically how long you can sprint, how many shots you can take without getting staggered, all that stuff. But it also affects a thing called equip load. Now you can see right now it says equip load and it's got 48. What that means is that everything in this game has weight to it. So even the catalyst that we're holding right now to be able to cast our magic, the shields, the gear, all of it has weight. The more weight you have on your body, right, it's going to slow you down. So like right now we can roll around and we're super agile and we can sprint real fast. But if we equip too much stuff, then it's going to burden us down. So by increasing this particular stat, you increase how much you can actually put on at any given time. Does that make sense? And we'll talk about that later on once we start getting some different gear. Just wanted to kind of point that out. Strength is obviously strength. We're not really going to be focused too much on that, nor dexterity, nor resistance. Intelligence is going to be huge for us because that affects how much damage we can do with our spells. So the higher that is, the better off we're going to be. And then faith is not really required for this particular build, but we're going to need to increase it a little bit later on so we can get some more of the miracles for a trophy. And then obviously at the bottom we have 0 humanity. So that kind of gives you guys an idea of what's going on with this screen. Obviously on the right you have your bleed resist, your poison resist, your curse. That's just stuff that, you know, status elements you can get in the game. The higher those numbers are, the more resilient you are to those particular status effects. Poise is something that's going to come in handy. Right now it's a 0. If we can ever get that up to maybe like above 50 or maybe even 70 or 100, then that means that as we're casting magic in the game, enemies can hit you. They can hit you and it can basically take you out of your casting stance, which means if they keep hitting us while we're trying to cast, we won't be able to have any offense. The better your poise is, basically it decreases the chances of them that they can stagger you while you're in your casting animation, or, you know, even if they hit you at random, you won't kind of stumble around, and it's really good. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later on too. And then item discovery, from what I've played in the game, the highest you can get this is 410. Right now it's 100, and that just obviously affects how often enemies drop items. So that kind of gives you guys an idea of what that's about. Let's go ahead and level up our intelligence to 20. That's going to get us to soul level 8. Now you can see here that we only have 145 souls, and I want you guys to really understand this because I think as a beginner people are nervous about playing this game because they're always scared about dying. I do not want you guys to be worried about dying. It will ruin the experience of the game. You will not have any fun and you'll be too tense, right? Just relax. If you die, you die. I'm going to have places in the game, farming spots that we can all use so we can all get on the same level with our souls. You see what I mean? But in between those areas, just don't worry about it as much. You can always farm souls. I'm going to show you that in the game. There's only going to be a couple of areas that I'm going to need you not to die. You see what I mean? Because we're going to need our souls to buy things in the game. I'll point that out and I'll show you how to get through those areas without dying. They're really safe runs and you shouldn't have any issues with it, okay? So don't worry about dying. So let's come down here. We're going to again pick up a couple things and then we'll end this episode. Let's come down this way. Again, just using O to sprint. And like I said, guys, this is a very informative episode 1. So I know it's quite lengthy, but I feel like if you've never played the game, you need this info. Once we get into episode 2, though, it's just going to be me more or less playing naturally, you know, and only pointing out things that we come across in the game that you need to know, but not as informative as this first episode is. Let's drop down here, pick up this soul pack. Let's come through this way, head through the arch. We want to go down this way. Now this is an area that we're really not going to be exploring until later on in the game, but right now we want to pick up something called a Firekeeper's Soul. Very important, because it allows us, when we use our Estus Flask, it gives us more health than we would have gotten normally by using an Estus Flask. Think of it like adding on percentages, right? So maybe our Estus Flask, you know, is at 0% right now. It gives us only so much health. With a Firekeeper Soul, it might add, you know, hypothetically 5% more. You see what I mean? And that's kind of what they do. We want to come over here and make a right, hug this wall. We want to run straight ahead. Don't deviate. Just run straight, bounce off these ghosts, hit X, get the Firekeeper Soul, and then die on purpose. See what I mean? Now you say, well, why would you die on purpose? Well, I could have used the Homeward Bone like we talked about earlier and went back to Firelink, but it cost me, you know, it cost me some of my inventory, right? It cost me a whole Homeward Bone, and we only lost 145 souls, so it's a gamble. That's how I look at this game. It's okay to die in this game as long as you don't have a lot of souls, because you don't really lose anything, right? So if I'd had like 30,000 souls right then, I would have obviously used the Homeward Bone. But you just don't want to worry about dying and that sort of stuff. The main thing there was picking up that Firekeeper Soul. And we're going to die here again in just a second. I'll show you that too. I use death in this game as a part of strategy, man. Let's go ahead and talk to this person right here. She's not going to say anything, hit OK. But then she's going to reinforce our Estus Flask. Now look at the bottom of the screen there underneath that prompt. It's got 10, Estus Flask, and there's nothing there. So basically our Estus Flask right now is at 0, which means we're only going to get a certain amount of health when we use an Estus Flask. But once we reinforce it, hit yes, now it's going to say +1, and that means we're going to get a bit more health than we would have gotten before. And as far as I know, you can let that go up to like +7. That's as high as I've been able to get it to go. And I don't know if there's an item in the game where you can equip it to make it go higher, but +7 is plenty for what we're going to be doing in this game. So we'll be working on that too. Let's head back down here again. Just pull this lever, call the elevator back, and we're going to go down here and die again, because we don't have to worry about anything right now. We have 0 souls. So death does not matter. We can save 2 Homeward Bones right now. Homeward Bones cost about 500 souls if you buy them from a merchant. So, you know, in essence, we're losing 145 souls, but I guess you could look at it as we're saving 1,000 souls for later on in the run, because we're going to be using Homeward Bones a lot. Let's head down here. You're about to see a prime example of why I had you guys get the Master Key at the beginning of the game as our starting gift. That's because it opens up this, and then right here is more souls, which we need right now, because I want you guys to get your character, you know, pretty leveled up here. Get some confidence if you're new to the game, or maybe you're having issues with the game. Having all this stuff is just going to make you feel a whole lot more comfortable with the run. I'm going to run down this way. Now honestly, the only thing I really need to get here is the souls. And I don't really have to aggravate this dragon right here. This little dragon's actually playing dead right now. The only way that he kind of spawns in is when you... Here's the soul packs, by the way. The soul pack. The only way that he comes to life is when you touch these 2 items. But why not go ahead and get him while we're down here? Because both of them are actually part of the Knight's Honors trophy, which we need to get them anyway. There's 40 plus weapons you have to get for that trophy, or items I should say. It's between weapons and shields, and these 2 count. So we're just going to again pick them up, because that shield right there, that one is actually going to be better than the shield we have now anyway. So we're going to again pick them up. So just come here, pick this up, and then you want to pick this one up, and then just take the death. And we didn't lose anything, right? We saved a Homeward Bone. And this is going to allow us to warp back to Firelink rather quickly. Instead of having to run back up and take the elevator and all that stuff, we're just going to be able to go back there extremely fast. And then we're going to go back to New Londo Ruins one more time and buy some stuff. And then we'll do this fight tutorial, and I will let you guys go for this episode. Let's head back down this way. We're going to be talking to Rickert. Now you can see right now, if you look in that D-pad slot, our top D-pad slot, we have 30 soul arrows. I want you guys to have more soul arrows because right now, that's all you got. I mean, you could use your dagger, but I want to keep you guys away from the enemies. Even the earlier enemies in this game for a new player can kill you. I remember when I played Demon Souls for the first time, I died on the very first bridge you go to. I just died. And it's because I tried to go in there like I was, you know, Kratos from God of War or something. I just got owned. All the enemies in this game have the ability to kill you at some point if you're not careful. Honestly, if you get too confident with this game, that's when you die. It's always better to play this game with patience and caution, you know what I mean? And you'll do a whole lot better. Let's head down this way. Let's go ahead and pop our souls. Hit start, R1, X. Make sure you have all these souls equipped. I don't think I have any more. Yeah, that's all I have. Let's go ahead and pop all those. This way we get some souls because we got to buy something from him that's worth 2,000. You should get 3,800 if my math is right. Yep, 3,800. Let's go and talk to him.
Well, this is unusual. You haven't lost your head. And more importantly, you're free. How on earth? Well, I shouldn't pry. I'm Rickert of Vinheim. I was once an established smith, though. Look at me now. Can you believe it?
Alright, let's talk to him again.
What is it? Have you? Oh no. Don't worry. I've no intention of escape. It's safe here. I can't bear the thought of going hollow out there. Although, I must admit, I've not much to occupy myself. How about this? I could forge your weapons, albeit with rather minimal tools. I'll show you what made me the best in Vinheim.
Okay, so he's got a lot of stuff here we can pick from. Let's just go ahead and purchase item for now. And we want to make sure that we buy the soul arrow for 2,000. 2,000 souls. Hit OK. And then we can just get out of here.
Come back soon. Smithing helps soothe my nerves. Don't let me wither away out of idleness.
Alright, let's head back up to Firelink. And we're going to actually attune this magic. And what you'll see is that instead of having 30 soul arrows, we're actually going to have 60 soul arrows. Which is going to allow you guys a lot more options when it comes to combat, because it is possible to miss enemies when you fire soul arrows. This is also going to allow us to skip a bonfire a little bit later on. It's going to save us some backtracking. It's just really good to have these extra soul arrows. It may seem like a waste of 2,000 souls, but it's not, especially if you're new to the game. And for this earlier part of the game, actually having 60 soul arrows is pretty beast. Let's head back up this way. You should still have your 1,800 souls. We're going to use that to level up a bit more. Let's rest right here. Let's go to Attune Magic. And you see we have 2 empty slots up here. Just select one of the slots, hit X, and then hit X again. And now you have, 30 and 30. You see total uses is now 60. Now if you hit O, you can see we have 60 soul arrows now instead of just 30, which is really good. Let's rest again and level up. We're going to put this back into intelligence. Okay, and we're good to go. So you should be around a soul level 10. Let's go ahead and do this fight tutorial, and I'll let you guys go. Let's come up here. Let's come up these steps. Let's go over 4 basic tactics. Now look, if you can master these tactics, you will absolutely dominate this game. In fact, if you can master these tactics and just get confident with the game, probably the only time you're ever going to die in this game is if you fall off a cliff, or just the randomness of the game takes over and you get stuck in a corner with some enemies around you. But just naturally playing through the game, you're probably never you're never going to get owned by a boss, as long as you can kind of just get these tactics down. So let's talk about the first one. So I'm calling it range versus aggro. So all the enemies in this game have an aggravation range, or what they call an aggro range, and that means the closer you get to the enemy, you know, they kind of wake up and realize that you're on the battlefield. You aggro them in, you aggravate them enough to where they know you're present. You can see right now that I'm outside of this enemy's aggro range. It has no idea that I'm right here right now, but if I hit my R3 like I'm doing, I can actually target it. So I have the complete 100% advantage on this enemy right now, and that's where your range comes in. That's the beauty of being a sorcerer, guys, especially if you're a beginner. You don't have to engage in close quarters combat unless you want to, and we'll talk about that with another tactic here in a second. But for now, just hit R1 and fire away, and that's your range versus aggro. All right, let's talk about the circle strategy. So let's run up here and kind of aggro this dude in. You see how he's aggroed now. Scan, hit R3 right on your right thumbstick. He's going to come over here and try to hit you. Keep your shield up, and what you want to do is run around him in a tight circle. Now, two things are going to happen. One, he's going to hit your shield, and it's not really going to do anything to you. Or two, he's going to swing and miss like that, and then you're able to just hit him with your soul arrow. Right? So that's the circle strategy. Okay, let's talk about the third one, which is the counter kill. Now, we talked about this back at the Asylum. Let's come out here and aggro this dude in. Just watch out for this guy dropping fire bombs. Try not to get hit in the head. Now what he's going to do is he's going to attack me right here. As soon as he hits me, see, now I missed him there because he's a little bit too short. I'm on an incline, but you see the point. When they hit you, they kind of have to gather themselves up again, right? Now, some of them will swing more times than once, and you'll get used to how the enemy swings on you. You just want to make sure that they've exhausted their attack, and when they have, you just pop them with your soul arrow. That's the counter kill strategy. And then the last one is going to be the backing up strategy. This is what I use, honestly, for, I would say, about 80% of the game. This is the one I use the most. This is where you purposefully aggravate the enemy. Purposely going to come up here, get him to swing on me, and then I'm just going to back away when he swings and get my distance. See what I mean? So I use that one a lot. So you run up, and basically you're aggravating them on purpose. Like, hey, I want you to swing at me right now. And then when they do, and they're in their attack animation, you just pop them. Now, those are the 4 tactics that I want you guys to practice before we get to episode 2. And what you can do is you can come back down here like we talked about earlier, rest at the bonfire, which will spawn all these dudes in again, and then just keep practicing this. Don't worry about the souls right now. If you die or whatever, don't worry about it. We're actually going to be farming in the next episode anyway for some souls, so don't worry about that. Just come up here and practice. Let it become a natural part of the way you play, and until you're comfortable with this, don't leave this area and don't watch episode 2. Right? Just let this become a natural part of the way that you play. And when you can come up here and you can kill these guys fairly fast like this, then you're pretty set and you're ready to go. And maybe you want to also, you know, try to practice all 4 strategies, you know, individually. Just make sure that you're good and comfortable with the game before you watch episode 2, and we'll be good to go, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this very informative episode 1. I know it's kind of a longer episode, but once we get into episode 2, I'm going to assume that you have the basics down pat, and we're going to start rolling with this game. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. I'll see you right back here in episode 2. You guys be good.